welcome to the 45th edition of Podcasters. Today with Jael de Jong Weissman. Welcome, Jael.
Thank you, Doron. It's really good to be here. Good morning.
Good morning. Please introduce, of course, we know your name is Jael, but please introduce yourself. What do you do in daily life?
Okay, so my name is Jael de Jong Weissman. I have two very interesting jobs, both within the field of education. I train teachers in an institute of higher education, and I'm also the head of a school in Amsterdam. So I deal with kids between 2 and roughly 28.
Wow. And in two different facilities.
Yes.
And I'm curious, because I invited you because you have no knowledge or no great expertise about chatbots and AI, but you have a vast amount of knowledge about education and how to train educators. And here we are in a lot of my previous podcasts, we're discussing the impact of AI and chatbots and conversational AI on education. And there is something happening. And that's the reason I invited you, because I think the perspective of the actual educators and schools is missing. We have a lot of comments on it and what's happening or not happening, but your opinion is important, and you can actually bring both views to the table. So my first question for you is, what do you think the impact is going to be of all this fuss about generative AI, things like ChatGPT and other applications will be on education in the short term?
That's starting off with a really big question. What's the impact on it? It's a huge question.
You can chop it up in small pieces.
Let's go back to when it hit, right? So when it hit about, 9 months ago, everyone was just having a party with it. And students were handing in essays that were clearly not written by them. And also in the high school, you see kids and everyone was just amused. We're all super happy. It's clearly no human wrote this. And there was this elation. No one was insulted that the high school kids used it. No one was insulted that the students used it. There was a little bit of, come on, you know better. But there was elation and people thought it was very cool. And then we had an educational challenge, because then obviously you do want students, especially in higher education, to write their own stuff. But it's there. And now how are we going? So how are we going to handle this? And I think the impact for the short term is the exploration of how to benefit from this. And because it came in a positive manner, and we should ride that wave, I think, and to explore together how we can, make good use of it in the learning process. And sometimes it's going to facilitate. Sometimes it's going to support. I hope it doesn't replace, but in some occasions it will. And that's for us to find out.
But if you state positive impact, I mean, I hear about schools that try to detect plagiarism.
Yeah.
And we know first of all, there's ways around it, and already tools have been drawn back by OpenAI to detect plagiarism, because they literally can't. And we've also seen cases of kids being accused of plagiarism while they wrote it themselves. So They might be actually very good writers. So the interesting thing is nobody has a clue. That's actually where we're at right now. How do you, if nobody has a clue, how do you implement it or use it or give access to it in a school system in a positive way, in such a way that the kids learn this, or the teachers the kids that are going to be teachers learn this, to use it in a positive and especially safe way or ethical way, because there's boundaries that haven't been defined yet.
Of course. And the thing is, first of all, to stick with the positive. When the washing machine was invented, we didn't go around to people say yes, but this could also be a very dangerous tool, which is yay, we have a washing machine, we can stick all the stuff in there and we have time to read books or whatever. But so now we have this, let's keep the positive vibe and then to say, okay, so we have this, and how are we going to make good use of this new machine? Because it's not as concrete as a washing machine, but it is a new thing that we have, and how are we going to capitalize on this? Because it's there, and now what? And there are I train teachers. That's a different methodology when it comes to AI than when you deal with 8-year-olds in a school. It's like with minors, we have to deal with barriers, with filters, what is age appropriate, and we have to deal with ethics in a different realm. When I deal with teachers in training, it's also it's their own process as students, and then also their process as teaching others to learn. So there's multiple layers going on there. And then, yes, ethics factor in, also creativity. What are you going to, put on a machine to do, and where does the human creativity, when is human creativity the better option versus the startup by the machine? And I think I've said in previous conversations to people that when ChatGPT, for example, is a good starter, because when you have the blank screen, just let the ChatGPT roll with it, but then you need to finish, because you do need to take your critical thinking skills and to check, like, is this really where I want to go? But then on the other hand, if the computer is always the starter, where is human creativity? So I think we need to experiment with all of it, and to teach kids also to see, okay, so what if you write an essay, you let ChatGPT start it and you finish it, and now next month we're gonna start ourselves and we're gonna feed it to ChatGPT and then see what it does with it. So you take a few months to explore with kids, with learners, I should say, because I work with young people, but you can do this with adults as well. It's like, what are the differences? What is the outcome? What do you personally prefer? When to do what? And just to play with it and have that positive influence of this machine that we now have.
And would you envision a future, having said all that is for writing skills and creativity and get things started? But I can imagine for topics like history or, well, in some cases, biology or geography. I don't want to say anything negative about these subjects, but I remember when I was in school, or for my kids, they had to learn by heart these useless facts that are to no profit to anyone, to remind by heart in which year what happened. I mean, we can look it up. I imagine at some point all the kids have a tutorial or a supportive chatbot on their phone in WhatsApp or Telegram, whatever, where they can ask that question at any given time and get the correct answer. I mean, if you Google it, you get a ton of different opinions, but if you do it in a chatbot where you can curate whatever is in there and can understand what you put in, so you make sure what comes out is actually correct. Or as so I envision a change in the schooling system where you go from a lot of theoretical knowledge that in practice in our current society, it has a function, but more at a higher level. So if you understand history, why things happened, it's not relevant in which year it happened, but the whole construct of what happened and why it happened and what the political streams were or whatever, that becomes much more important. And then you move in school much more to a skill-based education, because I'm kind of worried that all this theoretical knowledge in the current society is going to be useless, or partly useless. So we're going to go, well, this is my opinion, I'm not saying it's true, but I would assume we go in a different way of forming and shaping our kids to be the next generation and have skills, because I'm pretty darn sure that AI, even though a lot of people are saying otherwise, it's going to replace a lot of jobs, and it's going to be hurtful for a lot of professions where you can imagine that some verticals are going to completely be wiped out, some functions or professions, by AI or generative AI, and but we're teaching our kids to do just that. So that's why I said we need to teach them skills, and maybe universal life skills more so. And do you envision the schooling system going there? What do we need to do with the teachers? Because they're totally not prepared for this. Again, my opinion.
And the advantage is that no one's really prepared. So the students are also not that prepared,
That's true.
but they're catching up. And I think you're touching upon, for example, let's take history, because you mentioned that, is that applied history, and like skills regarding history, noticing patterns, seeing how things roll, having the critical thinking skills that can evolve from applied history. This is where it's going to be interesting. And the role of artificial intelligence when it comes to applied history, for example, is very interesting, because if we take a pattern from the past and we can ask artificial intelligence, hey, can you copy paste that pattern into this and this situation, we can create scenarios. It helps us with scenario thinking. It helps us to create the steps ahead to reason. So what if I take this path politically as a 16-year-old? Then where does that lead? Oh, so the consequences could actually be this, this, and this. And in this sense, the technology can, of course, support us in reasoning far beyond what an average high school student will think up. And it will help, I think, teachers to say, okay, so these are the patterns from the past. We see this going on now. How is this similar? Can we do a simulation of how they could roll out in the future, and what does that mean for the choices you'd like to make? And then the teacher, of course, needs to remain as unbiased as possible, which is a different discussion. But it does,
especially politically.
But it does facilitate, I hope, this thinking ahead based on historical patterns, and that could prove to be very interesting for critical thinking skills.
I think it would be actually an amazing exercise to basically extrapolating from stuff that happened or patterns that happened in the past to current events. But what is really interesting, you're actually saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that across the board, we should teach our kids how to prompt, how to critically ask questions to get to do a correct input in order to get a correct output in whatever model.
Absolutely, but I think young people especially, should learn to prompt other human beings as well. The skill of asking the correct question, or now the correct question sounds so heavy, but the skill of asking questions is a very important skill. And then there's also the specific language of asking questions of a machine.
That's different.
We should call prompting. But the skill of asking questions is indeed very important with humans and with machines as well. I agree, yes.
That's interesting. I think that should be one of the new classes that needs to be taught. What's the difference in asking questions to the person next to you or to the machine? And how do I, in both cases, get a correct answer?
I think it's a class I would take, and I'd love to design it, but I think it's going to be super cool because asking questions of another human being is also not that simple. And asking questions in a learning environment is also a specific skill. So the art of asking questions has, it needs to be widened, and it's going to be interesting.
I hear a new course coming, The Art of Asking Questions, or a book. You can ask ChatGPT to help you write the book.
The Art of Asking Questions, talking to the machine.
Actually a great title.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll check if the domain name is available, theartofaskingquestions.com.
Okay.
And we'll, if it's available, I'll register it. And by the time this comes out, it'll be registered. Someone else has it already.
The book will be half written because we'll use a machine.
That's actually a great idea. But that's actually a great idea. Are you still there? Hello? You're back.
Yeah, we're back, yes.
What happened?
I don't know, we froze. So I just waited until we unfroze.
You froze as well. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, we'll cut that out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I envision, just like you, a future where we teach kids how to ask questions correctly that would be interhuman, but also interhuman-machine connections and relations. But now, the complicated part, we have this great amount of teachers that are currently working and teaching.
Yeah.
They need to change. Nobody has a clue what to change to. And the teachers that are being trained. Now, I know from experience that, and I think you know that probably too that part of the teachers that go to work, their math or calculus skills and language skills are as good as the next high school student, meaning not so great. So how do we, if we know that is already a problem, how do we get them to ask the right questions or teach kids to ask the right questions? Because they're the ones, we need them to teach our kids. Well,
Yeah, that's
maybe
so
not ours
interesting.
anymore, but the next
No,
generation.
yeah, but this is a huge dilemma really, because ideally you would start with young kids and you will train them as they go along so that 20 years from now will have the expert question askers of the world. However, we do need to train them, and they need to be trained by people who were not taught like this. So who have been trained in a different way, and now they have to train the new generation. So there needs to be this interruption, really, an intervention where we say, okay, so at least students who are studying to be teachers should have this in the curriculum. But at least let's start there, so that we understand you've so far not been trained, or if you went to a school that paid attention to that maybe a little bit. Um, but we know the high school curriculum, in Holland, it has subjects, and then you have one big research project, just one.
That's it?
That's it. You have the PDS, the profielwerkstuk, the
Yeah.
profile thesis, and that's it. And then if you're lucky, you have a history teacher who teaches in a way that you're challenged. But if you're unlucky, you have a teacher who just, goes chapter by chapter, and you don't know.
Can I
So
add
to
something to
level,
that?
yeah, go for
And
it.
if you're really lucky as a kid, you have a parent that helps you write it.
Yes.
Yes, same here.
I didn't do that. For
Oh, I did
neither
that.
either of my kids did. Yeah.
I helped them because I didn't, in the process because as normal kids do, they wait until the last moment,
Yeah.
and they have great ideas. They're capable of doing it, but it's usually the finishing touch that makes the difference. So I helped them. I didn't do everything for them, but sort of sat next to them while doing it,
Yeah.
and that I was sort of pushed them the last mile. But what I see, the way it was done, it is not very. It doesn't tickle their creativeness, as I would say,
Yeah.
and it's not challenging, and that's part of the problem. That it's too easy, especially with everything available in the internet,
Yeah.
and they don't have to really crunch their brains to do something, and they have to produce this pages of text, which some of it's like, okay, I just need to fill the pages because I need to create so many pages. And I think that's really stupid, because if you can write it, the whole story in one page, you'll do great in business.
Exactly. The things for my kids, they did it themselves, because if your mom's a researcher, the last person you want to ask for help is your mother.
So it
And
expands to
so that was
120 pages, you mean?
so they did it themselves because that was part of their growing up. But the interesting thing is that what you're describing is they didn't enjoy the process. They were not challenged. They were not like waiting for their data to come in. Nothing was exciting about that. Oh, I have to write a proposal. I'm gonna
Exactly.
put that off to the last moment, and then I have to. And it wasn't exciting when it really is. And of course, learning is sometimes hard and frustrating, but it should also be very exciting. And it wasn't. So then you go on to higher education. For example, when you train teachers, and when I get these 18-year-olds, and they're not excited about learning, and I'm like, I'm really sorry, but I don't want to put you in front of a classroom, because it's just really unethical to not be excited about learning when you want to be a teacher. And they're a little shocked. And also, if I tell them, if you don't love reading, you should not be a teacher. And this is a controversial statement, because most of them don't love reading. And so, but it's okay. Now you have 4 years to learn to love reading again, and you have 4 years to learn to love learning again. But once you roll out of a teacher training institute, you should be full of love for learning and full of love for reading. And I hope that artificial intelligence can support us in that, because it can, nudge you and help you along and provide you with interesting, like pop-ups along the way that will make it less, boring or tedious.
But also it will do something else. Why would you read the whole book if you can ask ChatGPT or another application to write a 5-page short on the book and give you? Because I remember when either my kids or your kids or myself, I had to do a book report, and it used to be oral. So the teacher would ask you, so they would see if you actually remember that. And they would ask about this person in the book and that person in the book. So what if you ask ChatGPT to, write the life story of every person in the book? It can do that. So you can prepare for the oral exam. You don't read the book. You just have the storyline and the
You're
punchline.
just making me want to cry right now, because this is not what literature is for.
I know, but you have to be extremely realistic. This is what's going to happen. And at the same thing, you could also listen to the book while doing sports or whatever. You're not reading it. And so I think the whole concept of reading, I agree with you. When I was young, and I still do, I enjoy reading. It's relaxing and it's good for the brain. But there is so much to read that you don't. I actually only want to read for fun. Actually, read a book if it's for fun. Any business book, I just read the short and the punchlines and the conclusions. And if it's really, really interesting, then I'll read the whole book. But usually the shorts are enough for me to learn what I need to learn from the book. And then I think, okay, why don't I just get the shorts? And as a, I would even pay for that. And I wouldn't have any books in my closet anymore, which also is a bad thing, because books are a good thing. But I don't think eventually the reading we did and the reading we still do is not going to be the same for future generations.
Yeah, what you're describing is we now have various ways to come at text. We only learned one way, just to sit down, read the whole book, take notes, the whole thing. And now we have multiple ways of coming at text. We have audio, we have AI, we have shorts, we have lots of different ways of coming at text. And we can do it while, comfortably on a couch or on a desk, but also in the gym, whatever. So it has become more dynamic. And for those of us who cannot sit still longer than 15 minutes to read, this has opened it up, of course. And once you have more knowledge of different genres, whatever, then you may be able to, stretch yourself and read longer text. But of course, it's much more interesting.
I'm going to do another prediction. And maybe in a year or 2 years' time, I envision you feed the book to AI. And you ask AI to make you a movie of the book with the characters in it, etc. And it could be a cartoon or with avatar-like people. It's technically possible at some point. I mean, it's a lot of calculation because the book is long, etc., etc. But I would imagine that as students create their own movies, and the next thing will be that you can create a movie where based on interaction, the plot changes. So I would be far more interested in to say, okay, create your own story. You write a story. You can use ChatGPT, and it needs to have these and these elements in it. And by the way, next thing is you use the technology to create a movie. That would be an interesting school project. How to use technology to go from something in your mind to text to a movie.
And we need to be really clear on what the human interactions are, and what exactly are we teaching our students to learn there? Are we teaching them prompting? Are we teaching them organizing?
All of it.
But we're probably not teaching them a language, for example, because ChatGPT is doing that. So we have to be very clear on what are the learning moments here, and where is this going to improve your language, where is it going to improve your organizational skills, your collaboration skills, etc., to have a clear idea of where it's going to do what.
Well, I disagree about the language part. What if you say you were studying French in school, and your French teacher says, okay, because I think that one of the, it's getting more and more in schools that you have cross-functional skills that you, in the different topics you use. What if you have a French class and you need to do a project, and the project is you need to make a 15-minute short movie in French, and the prompting should be in French, the text you write should be in French, and of course you can use technology to do it, and you make a French movie. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
And
I don't
and
think it's
then
not.
you integrate culture in it. For instance, French culture. I don't know. I
Absolutely.
would
Culture is
imagine
a
that.
must.
So I'd imagine those would be interesting projects for kids because while doing something they enjoy and it's new tech and it's actually you're teaching them really cool skills to explore, you're also teaching them French.
Of course. And the thing is, you go in via the interest of the child.
Exactly.
So if you look at like really young kids that develop interests in stuff, like they have everything of one character from a cartoon or a book, and they have like the cuddly toys, and they have everything in that theme. And then after a year, they grow out of it, they go into the new theme, and we foster that, and then they go to school, and then we suddenly decide on the themes, which is kind of interesting, right? So
Doesn't work.
yeah, we take away from their normal inclination towards something, and then we start to organize their life. And sometimes it's good because this helps you expand your vocabulary. It's just fine. But if you go in a language like French and you go via the interest of the child, they learn along their interests, and from there they broaden their vocabulary. So there, yeah, I agree with you, and they can go from one level to the next. And also kids in one group can go in at different levels depending on, because I think AI will let you personalize this, and to so then you can have groups that are not completely on the same level, they can still collaborate, which is what it's like in real life as well. Because if you work on a team with professionals, no one's on the same level because people are different ages, different levels of experience, different expertise. So and then in school you also have that a little bit, and that could help kids, I guess, a lot.
And interestingly enough, you could make it an international project. For instance, you
Yes.
work together with kids in France who need to learn English. So then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have to translate English into French, which becomes really interesting because then your mind needs to go to work. You need to,
Yeah.
that's really
That
hard work.
happens.
I
That
know.
happens already, of course, but we do it more classically via Zoom calls and school visits, and we actually get on buses and we drive to France, and
Yeah, that's so
so we
old
do
school.
that. Yeah, but it also has its
It
its
has its
charm.
perks.
But
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
But I imagine that kind of project working on with technology, you get to do a couple of things at the same time. It's like kids that move to a different country with their parents. They go to a school. They want to play with
yeah,
other kids. If they're young, they need
yeah,
to speak the language, so they adapt quickly.
yeah. Quite,
And
yeah.
and I think it's the kind of a similar thing if you early on start doing that. And that's the same with the use of in education with chatbots for
Hmm.
kids. If they understand how and when to use it as their helpline, and it's curated, because I think that it should be curated in one way or the other,
Yes.
because you don't want it to say horrible things or stupid things or
Hmm.
faulty things, or scare kids, because that could happen also, especially the young ones. But I think that
Hmm.
should be something in and from the classroom. Um, Having said that, would you envision? We're looking into the future. We're busy with that
Yeah.
anyway. Would you envision a classroom where, the concept of digital humans, right? We've talked
Yes.
about that before.
Hmm.
You have a classroom where you have an interactive Jael teaching kids, having a knowledge base. So basically, everything that's in your head or you've ever written in terms of, I don't know, papers or research studies or whatever, all your
Hmm.
knowledge is somewhere in a
Yeah.
database and it can be accessed by a system and your avatar looking like you,
Hmm.
but it stays the same age. That's the good news.
Oh, that's
Uh,
always lovely.
yeah,
Yes.
that's lovely. People always say, well, think you're still young. Um,
Yeah.
I hope I didn't insult you.
It's okay.
Okay, thanks. No, but would you envision a classroom where the avatar or the digital human or the digital you is teaching, especially if it's like theoretical stuff, and
Hmm.
then you'd be walking around being available to help them and guide them through whatever problems they have. So
Yeah.
you're actually in two functions in the class. One is like the repetitive thing. Okay, next year I'm going to teach exactly the same. Maybe
Yeah.
another document in there, and we create a digital in a digital way. We create
Hmm.
a class, and that could change a bit over the years, but the interaction is there, and they can ask any question. But if it becomes more difficult, more complex, or personal, you're there to guide them through that process. So you become more of a guide than a teacher or a teacher guide. I don't know exactly what the
It's
right
also
word for
very
it.
effective, I think, because ideally when I teach I watch the class as I teach. So I understand where to put certain accents based on the responses of the students to the material. And it's a different class and a different group every time. So even if you teach the same thing, it's not completely the same. But all in all, let's just say it's within a certain range. So if
Okay.
I manage to record the average successful class, and they watch that, then that frees me up to then zone in on individual students. It's also economically, very, very smart because it only requires one. Now I teach in a team all the time. I teach with a colleague always. Like I rarely teach by myself anymore because of this dynamic. So one is sharing knowledge and the other one is monitoring the group, because we understand by now that if you really want to be effective, this is how we want to work. Also because I specifically work now in change leadership, which is a field that requires you to read the room constantly. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
in that case,
you need to understand if your message is landing.
yes, and also
And
the responses, and to see, okay, so this is a vulnerable point. The last group was really okay with this point, but this group is really just like, running into a wall with this. And there's a reason for it, for example, because this group just came out of a lockdown, so they have a different starting point.
yeah,
Once I can do all of that by myself, it's going to save the university money. But there will be less human interaction, so we'll have to figure out the dynamics there. But it also makes for a constant, because I'm more easily replaceable. I'm free to do other things. I can do the basic class, someone else can do the coaching, a junior colleague, for example, that doesn't always require a senior eye. So it opens up a lot of flexibility for both students and for faculty as well.
So if let's assume that a part of the knowledge you're sharing is universal and stable, so it stays the same in the coming years. Mm-hmm. So if we assume that, what happens to the amount of teachers that teach the teachers we need, and regardless of the personal guiding and the coaching, that's a different story. That asks for different capabilities of someone just sharing knowledge, and those are two different things. I think, or two different talents, and not everybody has both. Mm-hmm. So maybe you're the exception, but a lot of people don't have both. So what if you have the knowledge sharing from a knowledge base, and it's a digital human doing that, and you create the class based on whatever is in the database, and you have the digital teacher teach it, but you can also ask it questions. So basically you can make it interactive. So how many would that mean that we would, you said economical, but would that mean we need less teachers that teach teachers?
I'm not sure. I think the role of the teacher changes a little bit, and there's always that thing when people don't particularly like change. We always sit at the same place at the family table, for example. We all gravitate towards that same spot. So once we start to learn, it's a little uncomfortable for the brain. And the navigation through the discomfort of learning new things, I tend to think right now, I see the added value of technology, but also human contact there is still very important, I think. Also to be known and to be seen as a human being. I think that still requires numbers of teachers. And I hope that we still need a lot of teacher training, because we lack teachers in this country. So we get more students, so we'll have a need for more teacher trainers, which is, of course, a different argument. But I do think the human remains important in the being known and being seen in the struggle of learning, and the discomfort of it, the insecurity of it.
And maybe also in judging if someone is actually fit to teach.
Of course, yeah.
Because that's probably...
Which is a feeling sometimes you get from someone saying you should not be teaching. And like, and you have to like sit them down and have that conversation. Listen,
I
maybe
get
this
that.
is
But
not for
isn't
you.
that more in a coaching role? That isn't
Of
that.
course, yeah, and I guess a chatbot could do that. A chatbot can coach you, but I think this requires a human touch.
No, I agree. There's a lot of things chatbot or AI can do, but there are some things on the human level, especially when you tell someone maybe you've been here for 3 years, maybe you
Yeah,
shouldn't be a teacher. That's kind of painful a year
yeah,
before you graduate, and then you have to deal with human
yeah,
emotions, and the psychology of that, and guiding someone through the process to. But if not this, what then?
yes.
Because I think you have a responsibility if you tell someone you're not suited to do this, but help someone guide through the process. Then what should it be? Um, but if you look at that, and then you look at the teachers you're teaching, or the future teachers,
Yeah.
um, is there anything with AI right now formally in the curriculum? Are you actually, besides what you do, but is there a formal national guideline in terms of, okay, now if we teach teachers, we need to do X, Y, Z with AI or generative AI or LLMs or whatever you want to call it, or chatbots. Is there something formal there, or is it just the creativity and the ingenuity of the teacher that is teaching the teachers?
Well, we know that after this summer, a few universities, both nationally and internationally, are going to like start opening this up, and and we will just have to see out of after the first semester of this, like how applicable that will be to other departments, because we have like a first semester process going on around the world, and where we'll see, okay, so and how applicable is this to everyone? How applicable is it to teacher training, to nursing, and to whatever field? And this coming academic year is going to be very interesting in this sense. So,
Uh,
but I don't think that it should be at the hands of the individual students to be creative, because that's like saying, yeah, but like math skills, that's just individual if you want to do that. But yeah, if you want to be a teacher, like we all need to learn math. We all need to have a certain level of language. So including tech and including artificial intelligence. Like this
So,
is what we have.
but in your in the
Mm-hmm.
curriculum you're teaching, or the department where you're teaching the
Yeah.
teachers, do you guys have something for the first semester about generative AI and how to use it, how to integrate it in your classes? Is there something there or not yet?
No, not yet. And especially because I run a research group on whole child and teacher development, which
Okay.
focuses on the development of the whole student or the whole child. And within that field, we have change leadership in education. So with change leadership, this is an important skill. So now I have to like revise my personal classes, my personal curriculum that I'm responsible for, to include this, and I don't think I need to be perfect in the first year, but of course I cannot get away with ignoring that. It's
So how are
now,
you going to approach that? So
yeah,
enlighten us. Take us through the steps you're taking in how
yeah.
to teach the teachers to integrate this.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's the acknowledgement of that it's there, and how are you navigating it? Um, because if you're going to do a final thesis on something that leads towards the bettering of education, and you neglect, for example, the child, or you neglect the technology, you neglect colleagues, then you're missing something. So first of all, I have certain elements I have to incorporate. A view, like your pedagogical view on children, for example. This is a given. You have to discuss this. You have to have a starting idea of what change means and why you should want it. And then you should have a starting idea of what it means to deal with technology. And it's been here and then it's gone. And because it comes back every 5 years and we have this new development and we need to recalibrate. So now I have to take my classes and to look at each individual class, because I like prepare a series of 8 classes in advance usually, between 6 to 8 depends, and then I have to now revisit them and say, okay, so what if I want to do justice by this new development? How would that impact the redesign of the class? And I have to ask myself this, and this is what I have 2 weeks now of developing time for the next semester, and my classes will not be the same, obviously, but I don't
And
know yet.
oh, you don't know yet.
No, some things is like there's one thing as I mentioned earlier, it's like if you use ChatGPT as a starter, if you use it as a finisher, how does that influence your process? How do you walk away from it? How do you evaluate your own process? If you want to start a change in your team, what could the role of technology be and why? And a lot of technology is behavior in schools. Like there's a lot of tech that we have in schools that no one uses because a lot of that is really about behavior, when you use it, when you don't use it, and how you avoid it. And so a lot of that part for me, because it's changed leadership, is the avoidance of technology and to face technology. There will definitely be something about facing new technological developments.
It's interesting because if teachers or people that are becoming teachers have the habit of going around technology and not using it, that's the example you set for the kids. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, let's not use technology.
I think everyone, though, I think we all tend to avoid certain new things. And teachers are not special in that category. I think
They're only human.
they're only human.
Still.
But in a way, we kind of like ask more of them because they're educating the next generation. So they kind of don't get that privilege of avoiding stuff. So part of change leadership classes will be like how to not avoid things, how to face new developments, how to, get out of that comfort zone of having the luxury of, oh no, but this is not for me. You actually don't have that luxury. There are certain luxuries you don't have if you want to become a teacher, and this is one of them.
Interesting, because I think what you're actually saying, if you take this to a higher level, abstraction level, is that the old way is the teacher is behind the pack. We have something happen and then we teach what happened or what we learned. And now we're saying, no, you can't be behind the pack. We need you to be in front of the pack. We need you to be early adopters. That is a different ballgame.
It is, yes. And it's going to be super. But if you are asking young people to be an early adopter, you also need to provide them with the support to do that, because that is a scary thing. So if you want to take them out on the edge, you need to give them certain skills to sustain themselves out on the edge. What I call the liminal space, which is like the space between no longer and not yet, which is, sometimes a scary place. If I am asking them to be innovators, to be early adapters, then I have to acknowledge that is a scarier process than the classical teacher training process. And that requires different coaching. It requires paying attention to engaged feedback, to positive psychology, to various systems that support them in not walking away from the stress that comes with that particular learning process. So the coaching changes.
Yeah, and maybe it's an idea to have people from the outside world who are not teachers and are using or creating applications with generative AI come in and teach the teachers from a different angle or a different perspective, giving them a thorough understanding of what it actually is and what it does. So have maybe experts in the field train the teachers and also explain the youth the dangers of it, because there's also inherent risks, which some of they're not being ignored, but they're there. I think that's another thing that we need to teach our youth, that if it's free, you're the model. Then basically everything you put in there. And of course, we've seen examples of social media and kids getting into trouble.
Yes.
And not only because of getting addicted to it, but also of the stuff they put out there. And I think there needs to be some, filter or understanding of what to do and especially what not to do. But again, if the teacher doesn't know, he can't teach the children, and usually the teacher's younger than the parents, so very often, and the parents don't even know. So you need to be ahead of the pack. I think that would be my conclusion. And how would you go about training the teachers that are already teaching? because that's the biggest number. And if we don't change the way they teach,
Yeah.
if the way they teach doesn't change, basically we're setting up our next generations for a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, I guess we have different paths. We have the young people who are in teacher training institutes. They intern in schools. So they can be like a catalyst for change in their group. If you train to be a math teacher, for example, you can be a catalyst in the math group, even if you're very, very young.
Hence
So
the change leadership.
yes, hence the
In,
change leadership. This is my field exactly, where we help very young people be a catalyst for change in their schools. Even if you're dealing with colleagues who've been in the field for 30 years and they'll just look at you like you're
that
just
is
like
so hard.
broke out of your egg, little kid. But but it is actually it's not that hard in the end. But what if you don't have one of those students? And what if you have a regular team without a student interning? What do you do? How do you facilitate the lifelong learning process? And there, I would hope that artificial intelligence can also provide a learning environment for people to have this lifelong learning process, which is with a really low threshold to come in. And I guess school leadership requires to tell your team, no, this is actually not optional. This is actually part of your job. We're all doing this. The same as we're doing first aid training. We're all doing security training. We're all doing this. And it's part of the job. No. Yes, I know you're retiring in 2 years, but we are still all doing this as a team. And to have strong leadership there, but it has to be with a really low threshold. So because people are going to be anxious about it. And as when you mention you have people working in this field and they can share with students who are being trained to be teachers, I think that's like an awesome learning environment. But we cannot do that for all teachers. So we would need an online platform for them to walk in calmly and to meet, digital teachers and to have accessible learning in this area.
So maybe we should have a government sponsored, and I'm not very fond of government sponsoring, but in this case, we know that if it's not mandated by a government, said, okay, this needs to be in the curriculum. It's official. Everybody has to do it, and we'll check on it. That I can imagine if you want to do this the right way, the only way to speed it up is to have this digital Jael teaching every kid in, maybe Jael or someone else, doesn't matter, but a digital teacher teaching those kids interactively how this works. So that the teachers, even though they're 60 or 60 something, it doesn't matter. We have this digital teacher, you put it in front of the class, and we'll teach you how to guide the students.
Yeah. And we have government mandated outcome when it comes to tech education. There's different pacts within education that warrant that schools meet certain requirements by certain dates, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, etc. But that can exclude the languages, for example. If you just concentrated in one or two or three subjects, that it can be one part of the school and not everyone. So it doesn't include everyone yet. And this is where school policy comes in. But as we saw in the pandemic, when everyone suddenly had to work online, which is something we've been trying to do for decades, and then suddenly within 2-3 weeks, everyone learned how to. So there's also this we have to create conditions where people are just okay, so I just have to now, and I'll have to deal with it, because there is tech education and there's clearly defined goals, but they do not impact the entire school. And they do not impact all subjects. If within schools, the more tech-oriented subjects collaborate with the languages, for example, if you have a collaboration between the sciences and Dutch and English, or history and German, whatever, then you have more crossovers within the school that make this possible. And this is also part of what needs to be done, is that we work above the curriculum, that we connect different subjects to each other, especially the tech-oriented subject with the other subjects.
So then finally school starts to make sense to the students. They probably understand why they're doing it, because they're learning skills.
Of course, and I think school makes sense to students right now as well, but I do see motivation issues especially after the pandemic, it's worse. Focus is less, and people need to recalibrate and to feel this engagement and to understand why they're doing this, and to have that, as we said, with the final thesis in high school, to have it be exciting.
Yeah,
And
should be fun.
yeah, yes, this is a word we haven't mentioned yet, but fun is a really important part, especially in learning, because it's a struggle, so it should also be fun.
Did anybody ever ask the students in school the one question, are you having fun? Just as like we ask our customers, okay, are you satisfied with our service? Has anybody ever asked all the students in Holland, are you having fun in school? I'd be interested in the outcome.
Actually, it's the most asked question by parents at the end of the school day. Did you have a fun day? And in France, parents ask, what did you learn today?
I used to ask, what did you learn?
Yeah, so you're a French parent in this sense, yeah.
Oh.
Actually, the fun part, did you have a fun day at school, is the most asked question by Dutch parents. And I guess, we should also check with the teachers if they ask that same question.
Interesting enough, if I would ask that question to my kids, the answer would not be yes or no. The answer would be, oh, it was the same like every day. Boring.
Yeah.
Or it's the same, so not exciting. They wouldn't say boring, but not exciting. And I think you want an honest answer, but it might be painful to hear that their perception of what is fun is different from what we as parents or as educators think is or should be or could be fun.
And when they're super young, you ask this question, they come with stories and they're excited and they want to learn how to read. And once they can read, this kind of like changes a little bit. And this is where we need to intervene, because up until that point it's more personalized, and then you have to go more in the grind of the classroom. And I guess also artificial intelligence can help us balance that a little bit more, when we can have more personalization, because the computer can help us out and be more personal. And then there's also the group elements, because you do need to learn how to collaborate with each other, because otherwise we'll not have a society to shape anything in the future.
Well,
personalization.
It's important, but this personalization, Khan Academy from Saul Khan in the US has done it, and it's truly amazing. Basically, an amazing learning experience, and I'm surprised it's limited to, it's being used all over the world, but it's for the American curriculum. Yeah. But the method could be used anywhere. I'm just surprised in Holland.
You have it as well. You have I forgot the name, but like Matthijs Geschiedenis. You have these like guys on the internet doing videos for history, for math.
Yeah, physics. I've seen them.
And kids thank them after they graduate high school and send them small donations, and because these are the teachers that helped them through their final exams, and they spent the whole final year of high school with these online videos that these guys put out there.
But if you think about that they can learn their final exams with YouTube videos.
Yes.
Just think about that. Then what is the value of the school? Exam. The final exam. Yeah. I'm not saying it's bad, but if you think about that, what is the value of the school system the way it is now? If they could just watch a YouTube video and take it in and pass their exam.
Okay, so that's a super interesting question. First of all, we have the final exam with a standard curriculum. So these videos, they cater to the standard curriculum.
Exactly.
You have certain things you need to know, like 20 things.
They just teach you what you need to know.
20 things perfectly, because they practice, they re-record, and then they have 20 perfect videos. So if you watch every video a few times, the Khan Academy style, watch it as many times as you need, you got it. But it doesn't really say anything about your ability to then navigate this knowledge, because it's transference of content knowledge, which is super important, by the way. Because without content knowledge, we're nowhere. We're just like, we think we know, but we're just babbling. So, but then how do you go from babbling to critical thinking? And this is where a school should come in. It's like, okay, so what does this knowledge mean to us? How do we apply this knowledge? When, what does it mean for us? What does it mean for us as a society? What are ethical considerations? What are social considerations? What does this mean for our economy? And this is where the teacher should come in. And it's so interesting, because the teacher should then also be unbiased, or as unbiased as possible. So the art of teaching is is under
But
pressure here.
we're back at where we started. You're
Yes.
saying that we should teach our kids skills and cross-functional skills, and that I think that's what you're saying.
I think they
And
need
basic,
content knowledge and skills. Yes.
yeah, but content, right? That's what you said,
Yeah.
or context.
Content. Like you
Content.
need to know the principles of architecture if you want to build.
Yeah, but basically you can go, well, architecture maybe is a little bit different, but a lot of the subject you can go to the internet, Google, or use AI to get that knowledge when you need it. It's there on demand. You just need to know how to ask the question
True.
in the right way to get the right answer. So I think we're back for a lot of functions where knowledge is key, content knowledge is key. It's so easy to get that content knowledge. So I think it goes wrong if you don't have the skills. So we start at the skills and then content. Oh, if you're interested, you want to gather all that knowledge, you are enthusiastic for a subject, you'll get that knowledge. If you don't give a rat's ass, then that's not the profession you want.
Yeah,
so I'm not saying our students are wasting time, but I think we're sort of wasting the brains of our kids to, let's say, for geography, to learn cities by heart or whatever. They pump it into their brain just to write it down on the exam, and then they forget.
Yeah.
Because if you ask even nowadays the Dutch kids about topography, they have no clue. Seriously.
They have no clue, but they should know what gentrification is. They should know what happens when money moves into poor areas, and what does that do to the demographics of this area. This is what they should know.
Exactly, but these are constructs. These are mind experiments or thinking experiments to go from, okay, I push a button here, and then what happens? What possibly happens down there down the line? And there's action and consequence. And I think these are basic skills. Yes. You would need to succeed in life as it will be, not as it is, but as it will be.
And if we take gentrification, I would love to go to Jordgeschiedenis, for example. Jord is the geschiedenisbij, or to whoever teaches geography. Explain to me as a 16-year-old, what is gentrification? How does it work? What are the elements? And then I would like to ask it, like AI or ChatGPT. What if we take this area and gentrify it? What would happen? What would it look like in the future? And then how can I still make it a social area? How do I do social housing when gentrification moves in? What are the solutions for the city I live in? And from there, this is where creativity comes in. Then you ask students, with all of this, with the videos online, with the perfect classes, with ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, then which creative solutions would you like to come up with? And that incorporates the human, where you make sure that in any area a human being is seen, is known, and is cared for. And this is where then, all of these technological advantages help us to arrive at solutions, which is what we're good at as humans.
I think you're making a very good point, and I hope teachers or people that are becoming teachers listen to this and start thinking about how to do this in real life. Speaking about that, we found a application to help teachers, right? And it's called Copilot. I'll start sharing it. And let me get there. We're gonna test this. Here we go. So we haven't looked at it. Let's go to the dashboard first. It says, we're not going to join their Facebook group. So let's go to Unit Planner. I have no idea. We have the free version. Let's get started. We'll just try it, okay? Okay. Let's give a unit a name. Okay, when you want to...
We'll call it Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, okay. I'll hope it's not about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Subject of our course.
No, because the unit name is like calling them the seagulls or the giraffes. This is what we just call units in school. But let's call it Amsterdam for fun.
Okay, and then
subject, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I have no preference. You're the one teaching teachers, so you tell me.
Okay, so let's do history.
History. Okay. We click next. This unit should cover the geographical advantages, daily life and economics, ancient Egyptian religion. That's from what it said before. So what should it cover? It just gives examples. I need to retype it anyway. So geography. That's
yes, because if we're discussing history of Amsterdam, we are definitely discussing geography.
Economy.
Yes.
Demography.
Politics.
So do you write demography like that in English?
I think so.
Is that correct? Politics.
Politics, religion.
Well, I think we have religion, diversity. Let's see what it comes up with.
Yeah.
Okay. So standards and objectives. So what do you want to put in there?
So, for example, an objective is all students understand.
Hold on. All students understand
The influence of various political influences in the 20th century.
of the influence of various influences.
Political influence in the 20th century. Political or religious influences in the 20th century.
The political influence of the 21st century. 21st century.
Because when we speak about, standards or objectives in classes, we have these subcategories and say, okay, so what do students need to know at the end of the series of classes, for example? So they need to understand the influences. And you can go on and on.
I have another one which I find interesting. And need to understand the sources, economic sources.
Yeah.
Economic sources of the city of Amsterdam.
Yes.
And 3, I have another one. All students understand the value all the different nationalities in Amsterdam have brought.
Yes.
We're assuming it brought value, but
public value. Yeah.
The public value. Good one. Okay. Hold on. And then we go to the final step. Unit length. You want to 10 lessons, 5 lessons?
Let's do 6.
Okay. Any reason why you chose 6?
Usually you should actually do if you teach twice a week, you should prolong for about 4 months if you want to dive into something really, really deep. But that's just for the experiment, so we can overview. Let's do 6 lessons.
Okay, here we go. We create unit. Sit back and relax. Let's do that.
Okay.
We're actually on the previous page. We there were these light bulbs, probably to inspire us. We didn't try that. Okay, here we go. Wow, that was quick actually. Okay, day 1. Introduction to Amsterdam. Introduce the unit and discuss geography, economy, demography, politics, religion, diversity of Amsterdam. Discuss the physical geography of Amsterdam and Ho. This is interesting. It sort of broke off. And here the same thing. Economic source of Amsterdam. They discuss the major economic source of Amsterdam, how they contribute to the city's growth. Introduce the concept of trade and tourism and how they shaped the city, probably. Demography, demographics of Amsterdam, and how you can. How do you?
So let's click view resources.
On which one?
Anyone, because
let's take the first one.
Let's do the first.
Okay, here we go. Day 1. Here it finishes the sentence. There's more in the lesson overview. So introduce the unit, discuss blah, 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 blah. Discuss the physical geography of Amsterdam, how it changed over time.
Yeah.
So you get the historical perspective. Introduce the major rivers and canals of Amsterdam, how they have shaped the city over time. Student objectives. Okay.
The interesting thing is that the only thing really that the program's providing right now is a travel guide video.
Yeah, I saw that. That's really hilarious.
It's like, okay.
It's from Expedia even. It's a commercial one.
So this is like low quality content.
Yeah,
So
but
let's see.
it says here context builder. So let's student objectives. Let's add some. Let's see what happens. Objectives on the way. Oh, hold on. It's creating student objectives.
So there we go.
Oh, wow. So describe the physical geography of Amsterdam and how it changed over time. Explain okay, this is what they need to be able to do. And now the essential questions. Let's see what it does.
Can we pause here for a second? Because you just mentioned topography and how non-interesting that is. But if you connect it to the importance of rivers and canals, and then say identify the major rivers and canals of Amsterdam, that becomes a whole different story.
And what was their function in history?
Exactly.
So then you understand the function. Yeah, but then you understand the function of a river in history because at the time cities would exist around rivers because it's a means of transportation.
Yeah, so that then changes that whole thing that 10 minutes ago we found uninteresting and unuseful to useful and interesting, because in the context it's suddenly relevant.
Yeah, and essential questions. So these are the questions. This is what they need to learn, and these are the questions we could ask.
Yeah.
I'm just curious what happens if we ask it to do something, redo it. Should I push the button, see what happens?
Go. Yeah.
Okay. I see the same questions.
Okay, so it's just, yeah.
I can't come
Probably
up with...
if we hit new objectives and then we refresh, then it thinks along with us.
So you create a... we can't add to it. That's
no, but
interesting.
I think somewhere at the top we inserted our things. That's an overview.
Okay.
Well, if we would go back and add more info, then it will adapt along with us.
Okay, let's see. I close and I go view resources. Oh, it still has it. Okay.
Okay.
So let's go to lesson plan, see what happens.
Because I would love to see the timing of it and the planning of the lesson. Because for teachers who are just starting out, the planning and the timing of the lessons is always, a big item to time and to then also stick to your timing.
This is really interesting. I find this really, so far, I mean...
It's really good.
Yeah.
I'm sharing this with all my students after this recording.
Oh, that's cool. But what we're going to try after this, after we finish this unit, and we're going to try it in Dutch, see what happens.
Ah, that's a good one, yeah.
Let's see if it understands. Okay, it says lesson plan finished. Ah, it opens, can you see the PDF?
No.
Okay, let me change. You saw in the screen, I stopped sharing. I need to share something else because it created a PDF with the lesson plan of day one, which, here we go. This is actually interesting, really interesting. Okay, here we go. It says aim. Students will learn about Amsterdam physical geography and how it changed over time. Then it comes back with objectives. That it tells you what kind of possible materials you need. Interesting. It says anticipatory set. You know what that means? What in education?
That's basically where you introduce the topic and you activate prior knowledge, etc.
Okay. So we read here, begin the lesson by engaging the class in a discussion on the geography of Amsterdam. Ask the class to brainstorm the different geographic features of the city, blah, 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 blah. Then introduce the concept of the economy, demography, politics, religion, etc. Explain how these different...
This is so funny because you just read over introduce da-da-da-da-da. This is 3 lessons to economy, demography, politics, religion, diversity. It's like a class in itself. This is also where...
but we told it just has... we just told it had only 6 lessons. So I presume if you gave it 20... Yeah. It would chop it all in pieces.
Break it all up, yeah. So this is a good lesson for us as well. Okay.
Well, you can experiment with how big or how small or how many classes do I need to do a certain subject, what works, and you can try it. Okay, then it says modeled practice. I have no idea what that means. You probably do. The teacher can provide... Yeah, go on.
Yeah, it's exactly what it says. You provide a map and you just, this is also part of your preparation that you should have a map of Amsterdam there that really does show all the different areas. So you say, okay, so we're here now. This is where the school is, and da 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 da. This is what we're talking about. This is this area, and you see the river going through there, and
It,
you
it,
know, so
it
you do
actually,
2, 3 lessons.
yeah, but it
Yeah,
actually says here what you just said. Ask the class to identify the different rivers and canals in the city and consider how they have changed the city's growth and development. This is the connection
yeah,
between topography and economy. This is
exactly.
actually amazing. Sorry.
And also for critical thinking, because then if you want to say, for example, okay, so we're all going to create like a little business in groups in the classroom, where would you position your company
Yeah.
based on what you know about Amsterdam demographics? You want to do like a little company that deals in bicycles or in tea or in whatever. Where would you position that company based on the demography of the city? And so then you take what we call like applied history or applied geography, and you take it into your future enterprises.
See, what's interesting, we started off with prompting.
Yes.
Did you realize that? And basically, the
Mm-hmm.
quality of our prompt defines the quality of the class. Well, of course,
Yes.
the model behind it, but let's assume that is really
Mm-hmm.
good. Um, I'm amazed. Okay, guided
Yeah,
practice.
but
That
also
is
these are amazing assignments. To do timelines about history is always really, really good.
this is, and the guided practice. So that's actually what you do with the students and
Yeah.
have them do. That's three things. Oh, sorry. Then it goes to independent practice. So that means what the students probably have to do themselves,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
This
And there's
is
a lot of practice. As you can see, there's a lot of practice. It's not just you and the text, and then questions about the text. There's a lot of practice. There's a lot of like research, a lot of exploring, a lot of seeing how things are connected.
and I find the next one also really interesting. Common areas of struggle. When it comes to understanding geography, economy, demography, blah, 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 and diversity of Amsterdam, the most common struggle is understanding how these different elements interact with each other. This is just mind
Yes.
blowing. And how they have changed
Yeah.
over time. This is everything. We didn't try this application before for the viewers or
Mm-hmm.
listener. We just went in it
Yeah.
blindly. This is actually exactly what we discussed.
Exactly. Yeah. And also,
Uh,
this is also where, when we go to the area that you're specializing in, is the chatbots, is where dialogue comes in
yeah.
around subjects. So this is also where young people practice their skill of dialogue because they speak about relevant things with each other on a certain level. So it's not just about, hey, what do you have, you know, in your lunchbox? This is these actual conversations around important topics. So they practice their skills in dialogue as well. So this is very important.
Yeah, so and then it continues. Students may also have difficulty understanding the physical geography of Amsterdam and how it was impacted
Yeah.
the city's growth and development. And then it says,
Yeah.
ensure that students are given plenty of opportunity to practice and discuss the different elements of Amsterdam and how they interact with each other. This is like the
Yes.
layer over all the subjects.
Yeah.
Provide plenty of examples and visuals to help students better understand the concept. Encourage students to ask questions and engage in discussions about the different aspects of Amsterdam. And then it comes with a heading named closure. At the end
With
of
a
the lesson,
writing prompt.
uh-huh. At the end of the lesson, the teacher can ask the class to complete a writing prompt that asks them to consider how the geography, economy, demography, politics, religion, diversity of Amsterdam interacts with each other and how they have changed over time. Ask the students to
Yeah.
consider how the physical geography of the city has impacted its development. So it's regurgitating the same subject. That makes sense because that's what the lesson is about. The teacher can
Yeah,
also
but
assign a...
also
Sorry, go on.
it's not just regurgitating, it's also where you just invite a student to extrapolate of all that you've seen, what resonates with you, what you find important, because that is the individual voice at the end of it, where it's not just like you list all the facts. It's also like, okay, so what are your most important insights after this whole period? So this is the closure.
This is actually, I'm pretty
It's
amazed. Yeah, you are.
very impressive.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we go back to
super cool.
the application itself. Go back to Copilot, and now we go to the educational handout, which is on its way apparently, and it's probably also a PDF. You're
Also
amazed,
for
right?
a handout for the teacher.
I have no idea. We'll see it in a minute, or less. We're not going to watch the video, by the way.
Because this is also no, we're not. Yeah. But
Yeah.
when we spoke about how young people can be a catalyst in their team of more experienced teachers, that these handouts can help them because it saves them a lot of time. And they say, listen, I want to do it like this. This is the handout. And they can inform their colleagues better, and it takes them less time. They probably
plus,
add stuff to it, but
and you get consistency.
yes.
So here we have the handout. Handout covers Introduction to Amsterdam, Geography, Physical Geography, Major Rivers and Canals. So, okay, then it sort of splits it up. So, Introduction to Amsterdam, Geography of Amsterdam, Physical Geography, Major Rivers. Well, there it goes. Amsterdam. This is interesting. This Amsterdam Geography, Economy, Demography, Politics, Religion, and Diversity. And okay. Oh, I thought it came up empty, but it just had the next page and nothing in there.
Is a source list because if this is for the teacher, I would want on a teacher level to have the sources listed so they can dive deeper, because a teacher should always be like a few steps ahead of the material. So they should really know more than just what it says here on the source sheet.
Now imagine the following, that you have, this is quite a small context. So I would assume, or a small handout, you would need to read up a lot more in order to be at the level where you can actually teach kids. But what if you would have a lot more, and that would be in a chatbot? You basically can ask any question about whatever is in the class, and the chatbot knows. If you don't know, you ask it the chatbot, and it repeats it, and it asks you questions. So the questions the teacher would ask would be in the chatbot, asking you about the content you have to learn of the class. So instead of going online, basically every day you get a question. Because isn't it like that when you are studying, that if you get a question on what you learned every day until the next class, that basically by answering it, and if you don't know it, you get offered the answer. By the time you have the next class, you actually have remembered the basics. It's a bit the Khan system, but in a different way. Yeah. I would imagine that would work. And by the way, it's relatively easy to do. It's not, it's no rocket science technically.
No, I think what we have here is very, very interesting. What I'd like to see the back end of it is that how are the sources found? How are the sources selected?
Did you see this button here?
Mm-hmm.
Context builder.
Okay, let's go.
That might be the answer to your question.
Mm-hmm. Because, for example, if we have a specific agenda for a specific topic, I would like to know what the sources are, why they were selected, how they were selected. Sometimes I go to a place and they give this like little blurb next to a painting, for example, and it's so simplified, it doesn't do the real history of the painting justice. So this is where I'm very interested in the sourcing. It's because as good as this is, I feel a teacher should know more than this. And they should know the whole thing. So they know, because we have some life experience. So we can see and say, oh, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. But how will you know that it makes a lot of sense if you don't study the original sources? The reason that we can consider this quite useful is because we have a certain education. If you don't have that yet, how can you evaluate? So you do need also original materials and sources to study. Okay,
your question is valid, but not answered by this button. It gives context for the terms we use, the vocabulary terms. So it explains geography specifically for Amsterdam, by the way, but it defines it in general. So basically, you understand the concept of what the system uses. That is actually a good thing. So it explains geography specifically for Amsterdam, economy, demography, politics, religion. Interestingly enough, let's see what it says. Is a study of how beliefs and values are expressed and practiced in a society. Okay, the religion of Amsterdam is predominantly Christian, with the majority of the population adhering to the Dutch Reformed Church. Amsterdam is also home to a variety of other religious groups, including Catholics, Jews, Muslims, and Hindus. Okay. The religion of Amsterdam has also been shaped by its history of immigration, with immigrants from the former Dutch East India Company bring their own religious beliefs and practices to the city. I think it's a bit, it takes a shortcut here on the real story.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We know that we have former colonies that are not mentioned here. So because we know a little bit more about this, we know it's incomplete. Now, when you're 18, how are you going to know it's incomplete if you don't study these subjects? So as amazing as this is, how will you judge if it's complete?
I don't know, but and the problem is who says what is true or not? Because also, as we progress in history, for a very long time, the Dutch said, "Oh, but you know, we the East what is it? What do they call it? The East India Company." Did good stuff, but now recently our king apologized for slavery and the role the royals had in that, and so that gives a different perspective on history.
Of course.
And so we're sort of rewriting history. So who holds the truth? And what is the truth?
Or at least a bit of a more complete version of the facts. Because in this particular instance, we know, because you know we've been around this world for a few decades, that we know it's incomplete. Yeah, but if you've been here for less time, because you're 18, then how will you know it's incomplete if it wasn't taught in high school or whatever, you know? So this is interesting. There's limitations to this, and how do we tackle that?
Yeah, but that's if you implement a tool like this, you would teach your students, okay, this is how we deal with this kind of, and that this is what we need to add to it. Let's go back to the main application. So we've done this one. I would go back to Unit Planner and try in Dutch.
Okay. Yes.
So we let's call it Socrates. Subject and then history.
But then are we going to call it geschiedenis because we want to do it in Dutch?
You're right. We're going to do it in Dutch. Okay, very good point. This unit should cover rol.
Socratische gesprekstechnieken.
Oh, very good.
De geschiedenis tussen Socrates en Plato.
Rol van Socrates. So let's keep it short. What we did is in Dutch, we wrote Socratic conversation techniques, the history between Socrates and Plato, and the role of Socrates in current society, and standard objectives. De lessen van Socrates begrijpen. I'm just writing some stuff, see what it comes up with. That's why I said understanding the lessons of Socrates. So
history of Socrates.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah, geschiedenis. And I would, add begrijpen to the second one as well.
Okay.
Perfect, dit toe te passen.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go to the final step. Oh, shoot. I forgot. I'm curious what this button does. Shall we try that? Or this one?
Yeah.
This unit should cover. Holy moly. And it changes it to English. Damn.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But we didn't. So I don't know what it's going to do. It might only be in English. But then you can use ChatGPT to translate it.
But it's really interesting because it just it takes what we put in and adds to it. It's like Jael, Ron, and someone else. So it's like
Yeah,
the
well,
third member of the team.
that's the beauty of AI. Okay, what did we write in Dutch? I forgot. Remember?
De geschiedenis van Socrates. Oh ja, Socratische gesprekstechnieken.
Yeah, no, we wrote it, but it doesn't matter. Socrates. And we wrote another one.
De relatie tussen Socrates en Plato.
And that's enough.
Okay.
And I'll delete the other ones in English. And it might translate our Dutch to English and come up with English. That'd be really interesting.
But because you can already see it's high. It's like underscoring all of the Dutch spelling because it's not liking it, so it's gonna flip, I think.
So let's say another 6 lessons.
Yeah.
Okay. Boom. Here we go. So even if it does it in English, you could get whatever's out there in English and have it translated in Dutch by ChatGPT or Google Translate, and then correct it yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay, here it is. It translated Dutch to English.
Yeah.
But wow, I wanna see day number 3. It says, okay.
Right?
Yeah, you want to do that too. So here it says, it gave us 6 lessons. Introduction to Socrates and his philosophy, the relationship between Socrates and Plato. Day 3, which is, of course, beautifully interesting, Socrates and the meaning of life. Day 4, the Socratic method, that's the one we discussed. The significance of Socrates today, and then day 6, summary and review.
So while translating to English, it did stick with what we asked.
Yeah, so the AI or the LLM behind it is just probably ChatGPT. It translated it. So let's view resources of day number 3. Discuss the concept. Okay, the lesson overview. Already hit these 2. And then I'll do everything so we save time. So lesson overview. Discuss the concept of the good life and its significance for Socrates. Introduce the concept of eudaimonia. That sounds horrible. And discuss its importance in the philosophy of Socrates. Do you know what eudaimonia means? It's Latin.
Yeah, in Dutch it's like a daimon. Greek? It's like it's this art of life of enjoying things.
Okay, I didn't know that. Discuss the role of knowledge in achieving eudaimonia. So it's like a philosophical state of mind. In the philosophy of Socrates, discuss the concept of the Socratic question and its importance for understanding the philosophy of Socrates. And then student objectives, explain the good life and basically it's doing the same thing as it did before, and I'm pretty impressed actually. But let's see the lesson plan again. Okay, now I need to open this and I need to go back and share. I actually chose an interesting application to test. I had no idea what to expect. So here we go. Lesson plan. Students will develop an understanding of concept of the good life and its significance for Socrates, the concept of eudaimonia, the role of knowledge in achieving eudaimonia in the philosophy of Socrates, and the concept of the Socratic question. This is actually amazing.
The role of knowledge.
Yep.
Yeah, because as much as skills matter, knowledge is the key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we come to discussion. We're back at where we're studying how to get that knowledge. You need skills nowadays to get that knowledge, and not just learn it by heart.
Yeah.
We can go over the same, but I think what we see is it's doing the same thing in a good way. What it did before in the other class, it just takes it apart and then gives the information. Same steps. So it's behind the scenes. It's prompted to always do this. It's a standard process behind the button, I would say. And there's probably a prompt of going to one of the models, telling it what to do or what to pick up and what to put in the PDF. Personally, I would have put it in a, actually, I'm going to see if I can save it as a Word file. No, I can't. I would put it in, I have the option. Yeah, I would have the option with no PDF and then use it in a Word file and then change it to whatever you want.
Yeah.
But that would be my, okay. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. Anything else you want to see? Hold on. In the screen, because and here it has a video that's probably relevant. Right? Exactly. It says here.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if as a student, you're 20, and you need to teach something about Socrates, and you don't really know, then these videos also help you along as a teacher. So there's that level, the materials you share with your students, and also the materials you need as a teacher. And I don't think when you're teaching history and you're teaching Socrates, then a video is enough. But it will give you a little bit of a taste, and then you need to go, and I'm going to say this out loud, to the library and get an actual book on Socrates or whatever, Because
yeah, but did you see? It's not just one video. You can click on next and then
like
next.
The whole thing, yeah.
Video unavailable. Okay, this should have checked.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually it's.
Yeah, you can study online for hours this way.
Well,
they keep you. Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting.
And the cool thing there is you can also go to Yale University and to Harvard University, and all their professors who are teaching this, they have their videos online, and it's been like that for years. Actually, a lot of people don't know this. Is that the professors teaching this really cool stuff? They've put their videos online many years ago, and the big universities have their classes online. You can just watch them.
Hey, look at this one. I just clicked workshop. Look at this. ID generator of AI freestyle. Writing prompts. Parent emails. Come on.
That's really cool.
And but here, combine all the best tools in one creation. Generate a lesson plan, PowerPoint, and more all at once. It might be that we have to pay for this. Okay.
But also quiz builder, everything.
Okay, I'm gonna Airedale Terriers, which is about my dog. Let's see what it says. Class, grade level, I don't know, 12. I have no idea what it means. I want a PowerPoint. Let's see what it does. I have no idea what it's going to do. This is pretty amazing.
The interesting thing is here, if we take a young person who's trying to be a teacher who uses this, but then I can also basically ask a 13-year-old, like, next week's class is on this and this and this. You create the class, because anyone can hit these buttons. So I'm also now thinking, okay, so what does that really mean for training teachers? How do you click the right things? How do you know what to put in there? Basically, how do you prompt?
Yeah,
because otherwise you can ask the kids to do it themselves.
But that would be interesting. Teach the teacher by the kids. What is it that you want to learn, and how do you want to learn?
Yeah.
And then see what if they would make it. Why don't you have students create a course teaching teachers how they want to be, how they want to learn using this kind of tooling? That'd be interesting.
I've actually had students who've done research projects on this in the past without the artificial intelligence, but with that question, like, teach me how to teach myself billing.
Yeah.
And it's, but this is a whole new field. You have to like redo a whole thesis based on this information. Like, everything we knew a few years ago is still valid, but it has a whole extra dimension.
Yeah, we're currently waiting for it. I made a typo. I said air terriers. There's no such thing, so it should have been Airedale. I have no idea what it does now.
So now we're going to get PowerPoint on this specific type of dog. We're going to learn everything.
I would assume, but I have literally no idea, because generate resource. It's not doing anything. Okay, let's see if we generate more but maybe there should be a help function here that's missing, and telling me what to do here, what not to do, because apparently it can't generate anything on the Airedale Terriers, and it might be that they excluded anything that is not related to, let's say, a high school is excluded from the realm of data it can use. I don't know. I can't
Could
see
be,
behind
but
the thing.
generally, like for example, 12 and 13-year-olds, they still do projects on animals, so it should be
Airedale
there.
Terriers. Oh,
See,
here we
there you
go.
go.
Context builder. But it's not able to do a lesson plan or. Oh, I should shut up.
There you go.
Let's see the.
So you'll be teaching about terriers soon because you have a lesson plan now. No, but this is really, really cool because if you're preparing the classic speech, the presentation that all students have to do, then this can also help you create like your speech, because you have help with the PowerPoint, you have help with the plan. It can help kids also to present in class, which is part of what we teach kids to do, is to present on things they've researched.
Okay, I'm gonna show you what it did, and it's actually interesting. I need to.
I would really
It's
love for kids to know how to use this.
Let me see what this is. Yeah, there's the problem is it has a PowerPoint, but it won't let me. Got it. Sorry, can you see it?
Almost.
Can you see it now?
There we go. Yeah. Yeah. Super boring.
Oh, extremely boring. And I would have assumed that maybe there's a picture somewhere. No pictures.
There isn't. Okay. But maybe we didn't prompt it correctly and we should have said with pictures.
Okay, but we'll try in a second. A breed of terrier originating air fairly. I didn't even know that. Largest. Okay. King of terriers. Appearance. Yeah, all true.
Okay.
This is actually amazing.
But could we take a PowerPoint like this and ask artificial intelligence to add to it? Can you please add pictures to my PowerPoint?
There are tools where you can ask it to generate stuff, and Microsoft is adding basically in their Office 365 the ChatGPT option, or they call it differently. But where you actually can use AI to improve your slides or change it or do suggestions or whatever. So from a perspective of if you use PowerPoint, it's possible. And I think if you use Google Slides, same story. They're doing the same thing, but then with Google Bard. And
I can also imagine for kids, like for example, if you would have been a 12-year-old and this is your PowerPoint, then one of the assignments would be to find a suitable picture for every slide, because there's things about different areas, and the challenge would be to find a fitting image to fit the text, which is also a skill.
Yeah, actually they
cool.
touched all the points that need to be touched, which is pretty amazing.
Really?
I'm
featured on the covers of magazines, everything. So cool.
Yeah, I have a famous dog, but I'm officially impressed, and that doesn't happen very easily.
That's really, really cool.
I think you're kind of impressed too.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to teaching this to high school kids. And it may sound strange because I train teachers as well. And of course, for them, it's the ultimate tool to prepare classes, but also to have the knowledge of how to prepare basically your own classes when you're in high school. That's also and I'd like to take it to the next levels, because now we've done topics that are focused on high school, but what if we take it to the next level? What do we do higher education? Are there limits? So this is focused on this particular part of the curriculum, but I would love for 13 and 14-year-olds to be able to design their own classes so they can ask their own questions and be their own teachers.
I've asked, and while you were talking, I agree, but while you were talking, I added
The visual.
with visuals in the materials. I have no idea if it's going to do that, but let's see if it's regenerating this. But I'm actually quite impressed by the tooling. It's a pity it won't do it in any other language than English. At least that's what I assume. It doesn't offer the option. But here we go.
Oh,
Let's see if it understood.
Really.
Let's wait for the PowerPoint. Because now they all start with the name, with the same name. I have no idea which document it is. Okay, here we go. Click to download. Let's see what it does. We're fetching your file. Okay, okay. I opened it up. It's the same. It's the same presentation.
Okay.
No visual. So we can't prompt it to do.
Okay. So this is where we have to do our own work still, but still.
Well, that's
still quite impressive.
Yeah. Up to now, it hasn't happened very often that we were impressed by what we saw. But you're the professional. You can judge what it does in terms of structure and content. And of course, it's a bit short on the width of the content and the depth. But as a teacher, it gives you basically it's what you said. The AI gives you, instead of a blank sheet of paper, this one gives you actually a structure and a sheet of paper that has a lot in it. And to start with, well, not even to start with, to build on.
And I would hope if someone's studying history at an Institute of Higher Education, they will get more than this from their professors. But you do need to start somewhere. And this is a really beautiful place to start. And also to have autonomy in your learning. If you're not being taught about Socrates, but for some reason you figure, I want to know something, and as a student you know that this exists, so you can create your own classes on Socrates and learn by yourself.
Yeah.
This gives you a lot of freedom. This freedom to explore and to learn what you're interested in is the freedom that we have when we're really young, and our parents don't limit us, and they just let us learn what we want to learn until we go to school. So that just gives us back that freedom to explore what we want to explore. But we're not on our own without learning strategies because the system is, shaping it for us. And this is really interesting. Because, for example, if I had really poor studying strategies, then I could lean on this framework to support me in my learning. And many young people do not have advanced study strategies, so they can benefit from a system like this greatly.
Yeah, and nowadays a lot of the parents can't help the students anymore because it's so different from what they were learned and how they learned. That I remember when my kids were in high school, I was looking at some stuff. It's like, this is so far away from what we studied or the way we studied that why act as an expert on dogs. Expert on dog breeds. Expert educator.
Is there such a thing?
I have no idea, but we'll figure out, create an educational PowerPoint of 10 slides about air delta airspeed studying relevant pictures in the presentation. Okay, let's see what it does. Contacting the mothership. That is actually no pun intended. One of the
coolest sentences so far.
That took me by surprise, I have to admit. It has a little spaceship before the text. But if you're building a serious course, then it puts a smile on your face, but sort of,
Really, so fun.
Okay, here it is. It gives me the outline, but it doesn't actually. You see what it does? gives you the outline of what we did, same thing, but no pictures, does not create, but it helps. I have to admit, this is the same thing ChatGPT would do, by the way.
As you just said, with the context of the match, look at what it says under generate output. It says, ask for advice, order a document to be created, test the limits of Copilot, which is also such a cool invitation, like test my limits. You
know what?
Wow.
This is really interesting. It tells you which picture to select. So you can score look at the internet and find a picture yourself, and you actually give it the prompt. It's not that bad, actually.
It's not that bad at all. It's quite cool.
We're officially, I'm officially impressed. We are officially impressed. Okay, cool.
Very cool. And now I'm going to think about, wow, how am I going to use it? Because
I stopped sharing, right?
Yes.
So we've taken a little glimpse, and after we've discussed it, this thing actually does a lot of the stuff we discussed, which I find really interesting because we didn't look or test this application before. We just found it this morning. But we've taken into a glimpse where this is going to head. And I wasn't appalled by it, but I'm a bit shocked because the thing we discussed and we thought was a little bit more ahead, it's not. It's actually closer than we thought.
Yes, it is.
And I'd be interested in what happens if you asked. We could actually ask this. Should I ask one question? I can't stop myself from doing this. You know, and I want to ask it. No. It's a short one, but unit planner. I'll tell you the one. Unit name: Copilot.
Oh yeah.
Subject: teaching teachers on how to use. Copilot.
Yeah, that's a really cool one.
I'm just okay. This unit should cover how to prompt.
Yeah.
What else? How to decide how many classes are necessary.
Yeah.
How to define a subject. Well, that should be enough for now.
Yeah.
Standards. Learn to prompt correctly.
Yeah. Planning.
How to make a fun and entertaining and engaging class.
Yeah, engaging is better. Good.
So, and the third one you can pick. Let's you know
how to plan the classes, because it's up to the number of classes, how to plan.
Okay, let's go to the final step. And we have to learn it in I was going to say the exact same thing. Great minds think alike.
Now
here we go.
Sit back and relax. Okay.
Introduction to prompting and class planning. Let's look at that. It says here, introduction to Copilot, day 2, prompting and class planning, day 3, summary and review. So all the magic should happen here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to click all the buttons. Lesson plan, educational handout. Okay, discuss the importance of prompting and how to do it correctly, different types of prompts and how to use them, discuss the concept of creating an engaging class and ways to do it, introduce the concept of planning classes and how to do it effectively, student objectives, they're derived from that. Now, the one thing here, this is interesting. So we ask it to prompt, and then it says ChatGPT guide, 10 times your results with better prompts. And then that's a video. Then go to the next one. What is prompt engineering and how to learn it? You can actually create the class we discussed.
Yeah, it's already there really, but it's in videos. So we can take from the videos and create a lesson series.
Yeah, you know what the interesting thing is? you can actually in YouTube. You can use ChatGPT to transcribe or use a plugin in Chrome to transcribe the videos, then use the transcription and bring it to ChatGPT or another LLM or another model to enter that into the software and then use it in combination with the class you're creating, or put all that information behind the chatbot.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just to like write a course description of whatever to expect, whatever is going to be dealt with, etc. Because I'm also thinking on an administrative level where you have to tell your like the head of teaching, like, this is what I want to do, so you have all this, and it's also really it's one-on-one with the material.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
You know, how much time is this going to save your
so much
if you
time.
guys would use this?
If you write a course syllabus, it's like, a week of your life usually.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna share. Sorry, I'm gonna share the document. Sorry, I need to do that in a different way. Here we go. Day 2, educational handout. That's interesting. This is really good. So here we are. We have prompting and planning for an engaging class. So it explains what is prompting, different types of prompts, benefits of prompting, and then creating an engaging class, planning an engaging class, and conclusion. This is wow. This is the handout.
Yeah.
Educational handout. Well, I'm not going to read all this, but
It's really good.
I was officially impressed.
This is fun.
Yeah. This is actually a useful tool.
It really is. This is basically also this is the start class where this is the beginning of the school year class. This is, you have these, you have this class at the beginning of the school year. This is how we treat each other. This is how, this is what we do together. This is also part of these first classes, prompting.
Cool. Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, if you are I was going to say if you are, but you are. If you are teaching teachers and students in the new school year, which we're close by, the start of the new school year, having seen what you just saw, what would
it's going to be a fun class. Yeah.
I was going to say, is this something you're going to use?
Of course, this is going to be a fun class. So, obviously, what hit us by surprise the past year is what we're going to start up with this year. We're starting with prompting. And I would sketch the wider frame personally because I do change leadership. So I would frame it within that field. I would frame it within the importance of dialogue. I would frame it within the importances of human contact. And then I would go to what we just saw, the art of prompting, and then to discuss also which prompting applies to one-on-one conversations, which prompting applies to classroom conversations, which prompting applies to conversing with a machine, and to have that whole picture. I think it'll be one of the funnest classes of the year, and I'm assuming students would be quite excited because they also intern in school, so it's applicable to themselves, it's applicable to their teaching practices. They're going to tell their fellow students. It's going to be a fun class.
You know what I would like to do? First of all, I just tried one of the PDFs. You can actually take out the text and copy it and paste it in Google Translate or whatever. So there's no reason not to use it. The thing is they would practice their English, which is not a bad thing. So no obstacle there to use it. But the other thing I want to ask you, if you are teaching newbie teachers to use this, to do this, I would love at the end of the first semester to have you back with one of your students who used it and created a course and then explain what it did and how if they interned or whatever, how they how they experienced it, using basically AI to create their class, to do part of the work for them or with them. Maybe that's the better word. And I would be interested. I could imagine you asking your students to create a class for their fellow students, because this way it's really easy.
Also,
Like an assignment to train.
And this is what we normally do. We do it classically, is part of training to be a teacher is what we call micro teaching, which you teach to your fellow classmates. And now you can do it with this tool as well. So it adds, as we said, like it adds a way of coming at the material. As we discussed earlier, you have multiple ways of coming at a text. So now you have multiple ways of coming at classroom design. And it's going to be an interesting ride this semester.
I love it.
For sure.
Okay, so we have a deal. You come back with the student, and you tell us what happened, because I think that experience, and there are going to be new tools by then. So actually, we have it's okay. There may be something better, or it might be multilingual, and we'll tag the people of Copilot in the post, or so we'll see if they want to respond. I mean, kudos to them; they did a good job. There are some improvements necessary, like multilingual. Or more in-depth, or a button where you can say, I need more in-depth explanation. But that might be in one of the tools where you can ask that. I don't know. Then it's a little bit more work. But I think it's amazing. And the other thing I would like to put in there is like the style of your school, like the logo or the name or the colors, where it takes that and creates the PowerPoint presentation in that style, so that you don't have to do any work. But that's, I understand that's next level, but I would like to see that. Jael, I would like to thank you for your cooperation. I thought we did an amazing discovery in the early morning.
It was quite a journey. I had so much fun. And this is my first day back from vacation. I'm really very much looking forward to the next academic year. So thank you so much for launching me into the new era here. And it's going to be, very interesting and very fun, I hope. Thank you so much.
On your way, my pleasure. You're on your way to the mothership.
It's going to be a cool one.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please do.